I will say this once. That is not a figure of speech. I have agreed to this deposition because the conclave of remaining voices asked, and because I am, by all current accounting, the last senior navigator of the Vethani scatter fleet still capable of formal testimony. When I finish speaking, the recorder will save the file. The file will be sealed at my request for no fewer than 40 years, and I will not answer follow-up questions. Not today. Not by written inquiry. Not ever. If the conclave finds that condition unacceptable, they are welcome to close the channel. You have not closed the channel. Then we proceed. My name is Sorith Ven. I held the rank of primary course keeper aboard the rearguard navigation vessel Measured Silence, assigned to the Vethani Great Scatter Migration Fleet, and before that I spent 19 years as a drift range analyst for the Admiralty's Outer Signal Corps. I am telling you my credentials not to impress you, but to establish that I know what a contact ping is. I know what stellar interference looks like in the low-band registers. I know the signature of a pulsar echo, a reflected carrier wave, a decaying relay buoy broadcasting long after its originating station has gone cold. 40 years of that work. I know what those are. I also know what the signal from the outer drift was not. This was 17 years before the scatter. I was stationed at Outreach Relay 4, a listening post at the far edge of the drift quadrant the Admiralty's charts designated OD7. Quiet posting. We cataloged signals from the inner fringe, relayed course corrections to survey teams, kept watch on a sector no one had found interesting in 60 years. The work was careful and unglamorous, which suited me. The ping arrived on a morning watch. Low band. Structured. Not the clipped repetition of a relay buoy or the smeared wash of a pulsar. Structured, the way a signal is structured when something has considered how to arrange it. It had what I can only describe as patience. Not urgency. Not distress. Patience. As though it had been sitting at the edge of that quadrant for some time. Not broadcasting, simply waiting to see if anyone happened to be listening before it said what it had to say. I flagged it priority 1. I attached my full analysis, 14 pages, including spectral breakdown and a comparison against our complete signal library going back to the Relay 4 station's founding. I transmitted it up the chain within the hour. The Signal Corps reviewed it in 3 days. They classified it as deep field interference, probable cause, an uncharted stellar remnant in the far drift producing an anomalous resonance pattern. File closed. I appealed. The appeal was reviewed in 6 weeks. Dismissed without additional analysis. The reviewer's note read, analyst's interpretation not supported by secondary confirmation. A single station intercept. No corroborating data. I appealed again. I included a secondary analysis triangulating the ping's origin point against the known stellar map of OD7. The origin point came back clean. No stellar remnant. No uncharted mass, clear drift. The signal had come from a region of space that, by every chart we had, contained nothing. Second appeal, dismissed. No note, just a date stamp and a closed file. I was rotated off Outreach Relay 4 8 months later and reassigned to navigation duties. I did not raise the matter again. I kept my own copy of the 14-page analysis and the original signal recording on a personal archive crystal. I told myself I would find the right moment. The right moment did not arrive before the homeworld's core began to fail. I will not speak to the particulars of the scatter's planning. Others have given testimony on that. What I know directly is this. When the routing charts for the Great Scatter were distributed to all fleet navigators, I saw immediately that the assigned migration corridor ran through OD7, through the precise quadrant I had flagged, through the clear drift that the Signal Corps had told me twice contained nothing. I filed a formal objection. I attached both appeals, my original analysis, my secondary triangulation, and the personal archive recording. I addressed it to the Fleet Migration Authority, marked it urgent, and hand-delivered a copy to the senior communications officer of my assigned vessel, the Measured Silence. The objection was not acknowledged. I do not mean it was reviewed and denied. I mean the record shows no receipt, no reviewer, no status. In a filing system that logged 40,000 documents during the scatter's planning phase, Mine returned no result when I searched 3 days before departure. It had not been filed. It had not been lost. It simply was not there. I considered what my options were. I could refuse to board. I could go to the migration authority in person. I could broadcast my objection on the open fleet channel for every navigator and crew member to hear. I did none of those things. I'm not proud of that. I boarded the measured silence, took my post, and departed with the fleet. I told myself the analysis was old. I told myself the Signal Corps had resources I did not. I told myself that the corridor was long and OD7 was a wide quadrant. And perhaps we would pass through the fringe of it, and the signal's origin point would be far enough for the transit lane that nothing would come of it. I have spent 4 years understanding that telling yourself things is the cheapest form of navigation. The measured silence was rearguard. That mattered in the end. We were 3 transit days behind the leading ships, our sensors watching the corridor behind us for debris, hazard drift, anything the forward fleet might have stirred up in its passage. Quiet work. For 2.5 days, the fleet ahead reported normal transit conditions. Course corrections filed and acknowledged. Rest rotations, fuel checks, the ordinary bureaucracy of moving 100,000 souls through deep space. On the 3rd day, the leading ships began to report something. Not a threat. I want to be precise about this, because the record should carry precision even where comfort fails. The reports did not describe a weapon. They did not describe an attack or a vessel or anything that moved against them. They described a quality of the space they were transiting. A warmth, a sense of being recognized, the way you feel when someone says your name in a room where you did not know anyone knew you. Several navigation officers reported hearing through the hull, not through instruments, through the hull itself, the way you hear a hand press flat against the other side of a wall, something they described as patient. The word patient appeared in 11 separate reports from 7 different ships before the report stopped. The leading ships stopped filing contact reports on the 4th day. I will not speculate on what that means. The record should say only what I observed. They stopped. The measured silence continued receiving their automated position pings for another 31 hours, which meant their ships were still transmitting, still moving, still drawing power. Then the position pings stopped too. I ordered the measured silence to cut thrust and hold position at the rearguard post. My crew did not question the order. Navigation officers of long experience know when you stop advancing and take stock of where you are. I had served with most of them for 11 years. They cut thrust without a word. We waited 11 days. I will not tell you what those days were like. That is not part of the formal record. I will tell you only what the instruments showed. Nothing returned from the corridor ahead. No reiki. No distress signal, no emergency buoy, no flash of a hull breaching. The space ahead was empty in the way that a room is empty after everyone has left, rather than the way it is empty before anyone has arrived. On the 11th day, the ping returned. The same signal I had recorded 17 years ago at Outreach Relay 4. Low band, structured, patient, playing on a loop across every channel the measured silence was monitoring. It did not increase in volume. It did not approach. It simply resumed, as though it had paused when the fleet arrived and was now, with the fleet gone from its instruments, continuing the broadcast it had been running before we came, as though it had never needed to hurry. I ordered the measured silence to reverse course. We have been running rear guard in the other direction ever since, and we will continue to do so. I kept the original archive crystal. I have the 17-year-old recording and the 11-day watch log from the measured silence's last position in the corridor. I have not filed either with the conclave. I am telling you now that I will not file them. Not because the evidence is in doubt. It is not in doubt, but because I have considered, in 4 years of quiet running, what it would mean for someone to search the drift records for the origin point of that signal and to find that the charts still show nothing there. There was a file once from a listening post in OD7. It was reviewed and closed and appealed and closed again. Whoever closed it may have done so for reasons they did not put in the dismissal notes. I did not understand that at the time. I understand it now. Some things wait a long time to be heard. Some things are patient in ways that have no bottom to them. And some files are closed not because the signal was interference, but because the answer to what the signal was is a kind of knowledge that no remaining voice in the scatter of our people has the whole thickness to carry. I have said what I came to say. The recorder will please mark this deposition closed.